Hello, this is the chapter reading for Baird by N.D. Jackson. Prologue. Athena, 1 year ago. I'm dying, Athena. There's no getting around it now. Charlie looked so frail lying in that private room, a stark contrast to how she was in life. Vibrant and tough, brash and ballsy. Even her voice had lost the steel that always ran through it. All this money we have, and it's not enough. What are the fucking odds? She huffed out an ironic laugh in typical Charlie fashion. All of us, me and Charlie and Gwen and Indigo, made a fuck ton of money to insulate ourselves from the type of shit that brought us together in the first place. And like Charlie said, even that money couldn't save her now. And it couldn't save us from losing her. I couldn't take this bit of info. Any news but this. It's too soon, Charlie. I can't say goodbye. Don't ask me to. She coughed, her voice low and raspy. I don't have to ask you to do anything. Death is inevitable, and it's coming soon. Face it, Athena. No, I won't. Charlie and the girls were the only family I had, and I was terrified that losing her might mean losing a piece of myself. You will, damn it. The hard expression on her face was the only evidence she was as scared as we were. She patted the empty spot beside her. Her expression and voice softened. Now come, sit. Hold my hand. The show of vulnerability unraveled the last thread of my composure. Tough as balls, Charlie needed her hand held. Holy shit, my best friend was dying. Charlie, I won't make it without you. Her smile was weak, her blonde hair mostly gone, her big brown eyes still shining, at least a little. You will. You have to, because it's my dying wish. I sucked in a breath and narrowed my gaze. When it was the sister of your heart talking about her death and your eyes were filled with tears that refused to fall, you had to listen. That's low, even for you, Charlie. She laughed, the loud, crowing laugh that always drew stares and rude comments, but none of it ever bothered her. I'm completely fine with that. I want you to get out there and start living your life again. Learn to trust someone who isn't me, Gwen, and Indigo. I didn't need anyone but my girls, my sisters. They were the only family that counted. I trust people. Kind of. Name 2, she insisted. Even on her deathbed, she was a stubborn bitch. I trust my staff to do what I expect, and that's hundreds of people, probably thousands. Very few had let me down, which was why I expanded my business regularly, opening more nightclubs all over the world. I trust my doctors too, I told her, arms crossed petulantly over my chest. I'm going to... Another coughing fit cut off Charlie's words. They seemed to come more often lately, proof the cancer had spread from her lungs to the rest of her petite frame. A few sips of water cleared up the poison inside her enough to let her talk, so I filled a glass and handed it to her. Thanks. Now, as I was saying, I'm going to do something totally unfair right now, but it's only because I love you, Athena. You can hate me when I'm gone and commiserate with Indigo and Gwen about what an evil bitch I am, but I'm still doing it. She reached for my hand and held it as tight as she could, fingers ice cold like Lake Michigan in late December, skin thin and papery. I gave her a gentle squeeze, terrified I might break her frail bones. You're my sister, the closest thing to family I will ever have, and... She leaned back, sucking in a few deep, labored breaths, smiling through the pain. You have to do this, because I'm dying. I rolled my eyes at her, determined to be bossy to the very end. I hated all of this, but I hated that she was leaving more than anything, which meant I would do what she asked. Because she asked. How could I not? It was Charlie. What is it? I asked, my sigh heavy and my tone full on annoyed. Charlie flashed a triumphant grin. Simple. Live. Forget about your parents and that stuck-up town you came from. Live your life. You're smart, rich as hell, and beautiful. Do something other than grow your fortune. Go out there and do all the things I can't. Fall in love. Get your heart broken. Do something stupid. Eat something outrageous. Live all the life that I will never get to. Her smile was small, like it took too much for her to perform that one simple act, but the defiant, unapologetic tone reminded me this was still my best friend, Charlie. Damn, what a low blow. She was right. It wasn't fair to ask. I live plenty. I visited 8 different cities this year, gone scuba diving, and base jumping. Just because I preferred my fun more controlled these days didn't mean I wasn't living my life. I just did it on my terms. You do a lot of shit, Athena. That's for sure. But you do it to avoid living, and I'm not even sure you enjoy it. She gripped my shoulder, forcing my gaze to hers. I didn't want to see the truth in her eyes. I was losing her, and we both knew it. Just because some jackass tried to emotionally blackmail you and failed doesn't mean you have to be alone forever. It doesn't mean that you can't take risks anymore. You deserve to be happy, to love, to be loved. You deserve it, Athena Montgomery. You do. I let out a bitter laugh and shook my head. You're losing your edge if that's the story you remember. I seem to recall my high school boyfriend threatened to kill himself if I didn't get back together with him. I decided, screw that, I'm not going to let him emotionally blackmail me. Try another sucker. Only the joke was on me. Trevor did kill himself, and the whole town, my parents included, blamed me. Hell, I blamed me. I was an arrogant 17-year-old who thought I knew better and paid a cost nearly as steep as Trevor had. Charlie, true to form, shrugged. My way sounds better. And anyway, his problems were his. Just like your parents' embarrassment and their actions afterwards are on them. Fuck them all. They have to live with their actions, not you, Athena. She wheezed and pushed the oxygen mask over her mouth and nose. All the signs of how sick she really was had been there, and I just chose to willfully ignore them, assuming, or maybe I fooled myself into thinking, she would get better. That some miracle cure would come out of nowhere when I didn't even believe in miracles. She shoved the mask away. Go. Live your life, Athena. Live my life. If you don't, my skinny, bald ass will haunt you forever. I laughed even though I didn't want to. I laughed even though tears burned my cheeks. I laughed even as the cold, hard reality settled deep in my heart. That's fine. I think I'm going to have to insist that you haunt me because I'm not sure how I'm going to survive without you. Charlie, along with Gwen and Indigo, have been my family since I found myself 17 and kicked out of my home, my town, and my family. All on the same day. I stopped at the first apartment building I found when the bus stopped in Chicago, Green Street Apartments, and put down 6 months' rent. The next day, I met Charlie and Gwen. You will, because you have to. Because you are the toughest, baddest bitch I have ever met. We are Green Street girls, tough and resilient, with just the right amount of crazy to make life interesting. When you're off living your life, just think of me once in a while. Like I could forget you, Char. Once you puked up apple puckers together, you're bonded for life and beyond. I buried my head in her lap, feeling the frail legs she hadn't used in far too long. I did something I haven't since they ran me out of my hometown. I cried. I cried until my chest heaved, until I couldn't breathe, until I was all out of tears. I'll do it, Charlie. I'll live for both of us. It was a promise I would do my damnedest to keep. I know you will. Love you, Athena. Love you too, Charlie. Machines beeped and clicked. The gray skies outside were as ominous and foreboding as what was to come. The lights inside were yellow and gave us all Charlie's sick pallor. Each of us tried to ignore what was coming, eating Illuminati's cross-legged on her bed because Charlie said the greasy deep dish was the last smell she wanted to remember. None of us left the hospital for too long, and it was like the old days, all of us crammed into one shoebox apartment, talking late into the night. Indigo, Gwen, and I spent the last 19 days of Charlie's life in that hospital room, reliving the best and worst of the Green Street Girls. Chapter 1. True. I haven't been back in the city since I was 17 years old and on the brink of what I thought was greatness. Or maybe it was madness. Chicago was the city of my heart and the city that nearly took my soul. I came here from Milwaukee hoping the city would offer more money for a scrappy kid who knew how to hustle his way around a pool table. Before he split on me and my mom, my dad taught me how to shoot pool. We spent hours in the attached garage he turned into a man cave way before the term was cool, rolling balls across the green felt while he gave me tips on reading the table and my opponents. Trick shots, skill shots, bank shots, and any other type of shot. I can perfect it. And I did. Making decent money, but making good money started with money, and I didn't have much. I had to find someone to stake me in tournaments until I could make it into the bigger, more legit games with bigger cash prizes. But people who were crazy enough to stake a kid not even old enough to buy a beer didn't expect a straight financial payback. They expected more. There was no interest either. Nope, they had other ways of getting their money back on top of a piece of the pie. I paid the price, happily at first, then later with increasing reluctance. I repaid my debt, breaking and entering. After a close call with an armed homeowner, I knew it was time to get the hell out of the city for good and end up another statistic. I saved and planned for a few months, lying low and then taking a risk by using $1,000 I couldn't afford to lose to buy into a private tournament in the northwest suburbs with a $10,000 final prize. A week later, I paid my final debt to the last of the shady lenders who staked me after my last amateur tournament and left Chicago in my rear view with $15,000 in my pocket. It wasn't much, but it was enough for a shitty little apartment on the poor side of town and enough to stake a few games until I got on my feet. And I did get on my feet, spectacularly so. A year later, I left Chicago, I officially joined the pro circuit, and never looked back. Today was my first day back in the city, and it was fucking surreal. The corner store in my old South Side neighborhood was now a gourmet cereal cafe, and the shithole house where I rented a room was now a bed and breakfast. The place where I got my first beatdown for hustling the wrong guy was now a daycare for dogs. I couldn't help but smile at how much things had changed. Instead of roach motels and fast food joints, it was London House with a river view and Michelin star restaurants. Life had been good to me since I left this place, and I was happy to see it was good for the old neighborhood. Or maybe I was just happy to see that the place that made me, damn near killed me, changed as much as I had. I just hoped my return to the city didn't mean a change in my luck, especially since I was here for a week-long round-robin tournament featuring the 23 best professional pool players in the world. We would compete all week for $500,000 in prize money, not to mention bigger endorsement deals that meant travel, hotels, and food were paid up front, along with the other perks of being the WPA champ. I was the odds-on favorite to win, if I could avoid any and all distractions in a city that had always had plenty for me. Except the one distraction I couldn't avoid, and she was calling my phone. Hey, Ma. Don't you hey Ma me when you haven't even called to let me know you got to town all right. I rolled my eyes at her worried tone because it didn't matter how old I was or how far in the world I traveled, she would always worry. I arrived perfectly safe about 3 hours ago, Ma. The pilot landed the plane perfectly, and my driver managed to get me to the hotel without any major problems. I learned after spending 6 months in China, being specific helped Ma worry less. I didn't like it since I was a grown-ass man, but I loved having my mom back in my life, so I dealt with it. For most of my life, it had been just Ma and me, with the occasional visit to my dad's place in the first year after he split. When I was 15, she met a man, and I hated his fucking guts. He was a wannabe stepdad on a power trip, and I was too old for a new father. I wanted to give her a chance at happiness, so I left and made my own way in the world. The marriage didn't last, and now it was just her and me. Again. That's good to know. Might have been better hours ago, but I'm just your mother. She paused to take a quick breath, but she wasn't done. How's your room? Is it as fancy as it sounds? It is, and it's right on the river. You should let me take you to lunch while I'm here. Spoil you a bit, Ma. I don't need you to spoil me, but I can't wait to see your sweet face, True. It had taken Ma years to stop calling me Trumball, but she'd finally gotten used to it, and I loved her for trying. I don't have to go into the hospital for 2 days, and I plan on hitting up the farmer's market with the girls and then dancing later. Maybe you'll come out to Maple Valley for a visit? Let me fatten you up? She still put in part-time hours as a nurse because she thought she had an obligation to heal. I figured she was just lonely. Ma, I began because she always got me out there and then threw 10 different single women in my path. I know you know where the house is since you went and paid off the damn mortgage behind my back. Most people would just say thanks. She pretended to hate it, but I knew she got a kick out of the fact that I was able to do it. And you're welcome. I'll give you a proper thanks when you come see me in this monstrosity, she grumbled, even though we both knew how much she loved the house she bought after the divorce. Ma spent most of her free time tending to the yard and the garden, redecorating and making the place hers. Monstrosity my ass, that house was her pride and joy, a sign that she was able to take care of herself without a husband. I'll let you know what day I'm coming, but if I see one single woman at dinner, then I'm getting you a housekeeper. You wouldn't, she accused. Try me, Ma. Love you. By the time I ended the call, I'd made my way back to the hotel where I would spend the night going over highlight videos on my tablet and ordering food service for dinner. It felt kind of good to be back where it all started. Bigger, better, richer, successful. I just hope this vengeful city didn't decide to take it all away. Thank you.